Welcome to the MIT IT Innovation Program podcast. This is a repository of insights by thought leaders and practitioners of innovation where they speak about their views, insights, and experiences. Come join us.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, India 4.0. My name is Priya Dhawan, and I contribute as the Head of Collaborations, Branding and Outreach to the MIT ID Innovation Program. This is our 10th webinar since lockdown started, and I'm grateful to be amongst you all hosting this informational session today. I'm pleased to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. Neeraj Athalye, Managing Partner, Vice President, Innovation and Digital Strategy Group, SAP Indian Subcontinent. Driven by innovation, in 1972, the SAP founders pioneered standard software for financial systems to run their customers' business processes in real time. It's been 4 decades since then. SAP has continuously evolved by moving to a client-server architecture, revolutionizing data management with SAP HANA, and connecting experience with operations. Future-proofing their customers' businesses and building systems that provide a foundation for growth and innovation is in their DNA. Neeraj is responsible for strategy, revenue, and customer success in India for SAP's digital and innovation portfolio. Neeraj has anchored several leadership roles in SAP India since 2003. He is a passionate leader and drives SAP's growth and innovation strategies across the Indian subcontinent. Apart from championing several customer initiatives, he also works with academia and industry to promote new technology adoption. Neeraj has been working closely with the SAP ecosystem in India to build new GTMs needed for targeting industry-specific business opportunities. GST, I360 are some of the programs he leads for India. He is a recognized thought leader on technology and innovation and has been a speaker in several Indian and international industry as well as academic forums. He is a mechanical engineer from University of Pune and an avid motorcycle rider. I'm sure you must be missing the same right now, Neeraj, riding the motorcycle. He has been an entrepreneur and is a mentor for several startups in India as well. So before we proceed to listen to Neeraj, I have a few updates to share about this session and the MIT ID Innovation Program webinar platform. Firstly, today's webinar will have the speaker share his insights for the first half hour, followed by questions in the latter half hour. We encourage you to be curious and ask questions. If you have a question for our guest speaker, please feel free to share it via the Q&A tab. In case we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we will surely follow it up with answers offline. This webinar will be available after the session on our various social channels, and future webinars will also be shared on various social channels. Updates regarding the same will be posted there. We would like to encourage you to share today's webinar and its learnings with your social networks. This curated series on innovations will feature a variety of industry thought leaders, speakers like Mr. Neeraj Athalye, who are a part of the MIT ID innovation ecosystem. For those who are joining us for the first time today, I'd like to inform you that MIT stands for the 4-decade-old Maharashtra Institute of Technology. ID stands for MIT's 15-year-old pioneering Institute of Design. MIT ID's one-year innovation program focuses on the 4 pillars of design, business, technology, and humanities. The key features and differentiators of this one-year course are immersions, project-based learning, and humanities. At MIT ID Innovation Program, the industry and academia come together to create a new breed of comprehensive innovators. Those who are informed by design thinking, influenced by future technologies and trends, and inspired to make their own mark in the global scenario, be it political, social, economic, or technological. So we welcome you all once again to this thoughtfully curated innovation journey. We warmly welcome Neeraj once again. Neeraj, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot and welcome to all. Today's session is going to be on India 4.0 and many people have started coining this word 4.0 more like a change that is dramatically different from what we've seen in the past. So whether it is Industry 4.0 and many others. So I have coined the same word from the similar context. And the logic here is, given the pace with which the world is changing, given the pace with which India is moving forward, many of you who are either in the process of deciding what you want to learn, or you are already in your jobs and looking at what more you need to learn, probably this should guide you to some extent in what are the upcoming things that are worth looking out for. Whatever you see in this session or in this presentation are my own views. They do not represent the views of any individual or organization. My research on this topic is done based on content shared with me or things that I've read and analyzed myself from various analysts, from various organizations. And more importantly, in these 17 years at SAP, I've been traveling 5 days a week to meet a lot of the corporates in India, across Asia Pacific and Europe. And that helps me build a perspective which I have tried to pin down here. So many of you would have heard this statement that $10 trillion economy of India is an important thing. And trust me, this is not a jargon. Anything less than $10 trillion by 2034 would be a disaster for India. We have to, in some shape, form, fit, in some method, and a method that we ideally should define properly, we need to reach this $10 trillion number. Otherwise, we will have severe problems on many fronts. And today's presentation will try and articulate how we could reach to this 10 trillion, what are the important levers that we have, and why is it so important for us to achieve this goal. For us to reach this 10 trillion number, there are various industries that need to move ahead. Some of you might plan to join the healthcare industry, or some of you are already in the education industry. Some of you might join retail, manufacturing, power. But what you need to understand is between now to 2034, it is very important to change a few parameters, to focus on a few key performing indicators. In healthcare, for example, it's critical for us to move the needle from life expectancy, which is today at about 66 years, we need to move that to 80. All innovations, all endeavors need to head in that direction. If you look at education today, roughly school children are in school for about 7 years. That is our average. We need to take that from 7 to 10 years. How can we do that? Can we use e-learning platforms? Can we use a combination of physical and digital learning? Some of the recent tie-ups that you heard in the market are all efforts in this direction of moving the needle in the education space. If you look at agriculture, productivity continues to be a key focus area for us, and moving the needle from about 4 tons per hectare to 7.4 tons per hectare is important. If you look at manufacturing, today it's about 12% of GDP. It needs to necessarily move to the 25% of GDP mark. Going on and need to continue will assist us in moving the needle to this 25% of GDP goal that has been set up. Retail needs to improve from a 8% share of organized retail. I think 8% is a 2012 number. In 2020, we are roughly at 11.1. So 11.1% of our retail industry is today organized. More than continues to be unorganized sector. This 50% of our retail business in an organized way. That has its own advantages, and we'll see the advantages of those as we go along. Power sector, for example. It's important to have more power at a better rate available to the last mile. From about 75% access, it needs to move to 100% access by 2034. Likewise, financial services industry, urbanization. We are already seeing the metros of today, the Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, Kolkata. These metros are actually now, instead of metros, we should start calling them hyper cities. By 2034, they are going to be hyper cities. And the tier 1 and tier 2 cities that we have, like the Pune, Hyderabad, Cochin, Indore, these will be of the size of a metro. So urbanization is going to increase, but we need to modernize these cities as 650 million people based in this location. Digital connectivity continues to also needs to increase. Take that, reduce the cost. Just parameters across a few industries that we need to achieve to be able to reach this 10 trillion goal. If you look at history, about 2009, 2010, roughly we had 100,000, that is 1 lakh trademarks being registered in India. In the last 2-3 years, we've had roughly 3 lakh trademarks every year being registered. That's because of these startups. So in order to move the needle from where we are to this 10 trillion, we've already started working. And a lot of Indians are putting efforts, putting their investments, putting their time and energy into making India a fast growing economy. And the number of trademarks being registered from about 50,000 a year to 3 lakhs a year is a massive jump. And I think kudos to the startup community for having done that. Not just startups, of course, the large organizations too. Just for simplicity's sake, take a look at the numbers. This is February of 2020, that is just a couple of months back. In Feb 2020, there was a $5 million investment that happened in checkbook.com. A $4 million investment happened in Paperboat. About 4.7 happened in an online payment company called FamPay. In Ola Electric, there was about $1 million worth of investment that happens. $1 million about 8 crores roughly. Yeah. So about 32 crores got invested in Paperboat just in the month of February. Look at the month of March, for example. March 2020, which was last month. $1 million worth of investment that happened in 1mg. Was in Pepperfry. Yeah. In Doubtnut, which is an e-learning or an education portal, $15 million invested. These are massive amounts of money coming from various investment firms, not just Indian, even international foreign direct investments that are happening, and a lot continues to happen. I would urge many of you who are interested in joining startups or who are interested in having their own startups, you should follow some of these trackers and find out where are companies investing, why are they investing, how much are they investing, so on and so forth. The startups are moving fast. My personal assessment is the Indian large organizations, the corporates that we so-called, say they are either sleeping or they are moving too slow. It's not demonetization and GST as the only reasons why some of these companies are slowing down. There are other intrinsic reasons. Side in and figure out what is it that they need out of parameters in these 5 areas. All these corporates that we know of, whether it's an automotive, pharmaceutical, chemical, oil and gas, all these large corporations, they need to change 5 big things. First, every customer in India today has the power of information in his hands because of his mobile, internet, and other tools. So he's a much more empowered and informed customer. If you want him to be your customer for life, you need to take a different set of efforts. With the Olas, Ubers, Oyo rooms, and all of these coming in, these large corporations, which are extremely asset intensive, they need to figure out new flexible adaptive operating models to cut costs and give better service to customers. It's important to have non-traditional partnerships. A lot of them today stand end-to-end the logo. That's not true anymore. And there are many such examples that I will share along the way that will give you an idea that for a company to grow and contribute to this 10 trillion, a very interesting partnership done can definitely help. Many of you would have seen that Khadi. I mean, I think this year was an important year from the Gandhi perspective, and Khadi, which is an important product under the brand name of Gandhiji, they tied up with Raymond's, and every Raymond outlet today has a Khadi Gramodyog outlet also inside it, at least in many of the cities. That's called non-traditional partnerships, or 2 different brands coming together and making 2 + 2 22. Adapting a growth and innovation mindset. Now, in the last several years, we've done joint ventures. We've copied designs and drawings. We've shook hands with global companies and we've become the back office. But now the time has come for us to do innovations in India for India. You can no longer bring an international product into India and say, let's figure out where to sell this. Do it the other way around. Find what are the challenges we have in India, look at those as opportunities and come up with solutions for those. And that's the mindset that these large corporates need to have. Innovative mindset is extremely critical. And then lastly, focusing on accountability, integrity, and sustainability. You can no longer leave those toxic chemicals in the rivers. You can no longer give your workers poor graded material so that their safety becomes a challenge. You can no longer consume green more than you are allowed to. We have our next generation accountable for us and the next generation who we are accountable for. Yeah. So this whole process, and COVID is a fantastic example. When you mess with Mother Earth or nature, it gets back to you. So having a sustainable practice is very, very important. Need to understand this and start moving accordingly. So guys, there are three scenarios. Whatever we have been doing for the last 40 years in India, let's push and do that better. If we do that, we'll achieve a 6.6% rate, which means we'll only touch 5.6 trillion economy. If we push hard doing what we've already been doing. Step two, we push hard and do better whatever we've been doing, but we start investing in infrastructure. Even that is not good enough, because that takes us to only 7 trillion economy. For us to be the 10 trillion economy, we will not only have to do better what we've been doing, we not only have to invest in infrastructure and some of those relevant sectors, but we will also have to do some completely new things which are very disruptive. Only that will take us to 10 trillion economy. India needs to view its many economic and social challenges as opportunities for growth and renewal. This is the mantra that all organizations need to follow. If all of you are on a laptop, please take out your mobile phones and scan this QR code. If you are on your mobile, then please go to menti.com and type this code 507219. There is a question that you will get. Please give an answer to that question. This will just take 1 minute. Let me repeat. If you're on your laptop, scan this QR code and go to menti.com. Or if you're on your mobile, just type menti.com in your browser and give 507219 and answer the question that you are getting. Let me switch the screen while you do that. Yes, we have only one participant who has answered. So, favorite Indian brand: Amul, Bata, Tata, Reliance, Zero, DHA, Fruity, Parle-G, Ola. Tata continues to be the biggest, which means many people believe that Tata is a good brand. Zomato, Jio, last 10 seconds, Swiggy, Precol, Nestle. Zomato has growing in size, which means many people continue to like Zomato. Fantastic. So what you are seeing on the screen is a set of Indian brands that Reliance, Tata, Amul, Zomato, Oyo, Ola, Airtel, Swiggy, yeah, Naturals, through the team to all of you. Now, you will get a second question. So just refresh your screen. And the second question is, which international brand is your favorite? After submitting, you would have got your second question. Nestle, IKEA, yes, these two are international brands. Google, Apple, Levi's, Nike, 3M. IKEA continues to grow bigger and bigger. Google is now getting bigger. Zara, yes, it's an international, very well-known brand. Nokia, yes, it was. Probably it's still a great brand for many of you. Bosch, Microsoft, so on and so forth. Yeah, fantastic. We will come back to this screen as you keep giving the answers. Puma, Mercedes-Benz, Samsung, Volkswagen, amazing. Yeah, so hold on to this thought and now take a look at what I'm about to share, and I will just reshare my screen. So it will just go blank for a second. So the top Indian brands, and many of you were able to identify some of these. The top brand in India is Tata, followed by Reliance, Airtel, HDFC, LIC, SBI, Infosys, Mahindra. You've got Royal Enfield, Wipro, HCL, Kansai Nerolac, Ambuja Cement, JSW, Dabur. All these are 2019 top brands, the top 40 brands in India. Now, each of these brands is at the top because they are the others. Very recently, you would have heard Reliance has tied up with Facebook. To stay in this top 5 range, you have to keep significantly investing in innovation. And that's the mantra that many of them follow. If you look at the global brands, you've got Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Coca-Cola, Samsung, Toyota, Mercedes, McDonald's, Disney. I'm telling you, you will know each and every brand in this top 100 brands globally. 3M, Canon, Uber, Kentucky Fried Chicken, Spotify, Starbucks, Philips, Prada. Some of these names came up in the screens that you, in the names that you shared. What is interesting and what is the difference between the previous screen and this screen? The difference is there is not a single Indian logo in the global brands screen. What does a global brand mean? When Samsung launches a new mobile, every country in the world has a retail outlet which is displaying this new mobile. Do we have that with any of the Indian brands? When Apple launches a new version of its iOS, every mobile in the world changes. Do we have the same thing with an Indian brand? Why is it that an Indian brand is not thinking of going global? That's because it takes a huge amount of change in attitude, approach, and more importantly, a significant commitment to innovation. None of these brands would stay on the screen next year if they even reduce their innovation budgets by 5%. That is the impact that innovation can do. That is the difference between being local and being global. And I'm not saying anything is bad about the Indian brands. They have been there, they are doing a phenomenal job. But from an aspiration standpoint, government can't pump in funds to make it 10 trillion. They need to change. And for them, moving the cultural needle is extremely critical. This is a very interesting saying from Bhagavad Gita. I personally love it. We are kept from our goal not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. We define a lesser objective for ourselves and hence land up in the position that we are. We don't take audacious steps. We don't focus on the real big game. Again, we can keep debating right or wrong, but innovation continues to be at the core. Everybody says India is young. So why $10 trillion economy is critical? Just look at the graph on the left-hand side. Working age population between 15 and 64. That's typically the age in which you are expected to be capable of working. Look at where India is. India and China are in the top bracket. We have the highest number of people in the 15 to 64 bracket since 2019. And all the way up to 2030, we will continue to have people added year on year to that slab. So the number of people who need jobs, the number of people who will need to cater to their families, the number of people who need a good quality of life is so high that without a 10 trillion economy, we will just not be able to cater to this massive population that we will be adding in the working group. Many of you have heard of people not getting jobs, not getting the right salary, not having the right company to work for, primarily because there is massive competition. So while you try to study harder and harder and you try to do as many new courses to add to your skills, the corporates also need to change the game and support this whole process of moving to a $10 trillion economy. So it is not somebody's wishful thinking that we need to touch 10 trillion. It is the need of the hour for us to reach 10 trillion. If you look at the various states, the one in red are the ones which are growing fast. The ones which are in orange are the ones which are going at a slow speed. And the ones which are in brown or light gray or light brown are the ones which are extremely slow. It is critical for us to move our benchmark or the average almost twice. And I shared with you some KPIs right at the beginning, industry by industry, which are the needles that we have to move so that all can't be in red, but at least 70 to 75% need to be in red. If you look at the Human Development Index, by the way, how do you find whether a country is growing at the right speed or no? There are several parameters. One of the parameters is Human Development Index. This index is calculated based on life expectancy, education, and per capita. Can you see where India is? We are at 129, just better than Bhutan, slightly better than Bangladesh. We are compared to Nepal and Pakistan. We are at 129, my dear friends. The best of the best countries in the world are at 0.9495 score. We are at 0.7. While the number difference doesn't look high and doesn't indicate the gap, the real gap is seen by the number. We are at 129 and look at where the other countries. We are almost like a Nigeria or a Central Africa, somewhere in that range. So if we have to improve, we need to benchmark ourselves with someone. We can't do what China did, that is keep digging more mines and extract natural resources at a certain extraordinary rate so that it supports growth. If we do that, we'll be non-sustainable. We can't do what US did, is build more and more buildings, more and more highways, more and more roads, That will also make us non-sustainable. Not the best approach, but one of the approaches recommended is compare ourselves with Korea. Yeah, if you compare us with Korea, Korea was roughly at the same number that we were. So Korea was at 0.63 in 1980. We are also at 0.647 in 2020. So we are where Korea was in 1980. In about 30 years, they moved the needle to 0.89, which was better than the world average. We, instead of 30 years, we now have 20 years. In 2034, we need to reach 0.85. That is a 26-point growth that is needed. This is how you benchmark yourselves. And this is a method by which you figure out what needs to be done by the government, by the corporates, by the private sector, by the startups, by people like you and me. We need to figure out our piece of the puzzle to take us to 10 trillion. A person who cannot decide a goal simply cannot win. Chanakya has said this. Brilliant one-liner. If you can do what we did just some time back, scan this QR code, it will take you to menti.com, or type menti.com and go to 944080 and give an answer to the question that is asked. I'm going to stop and move to the same screen that I had earlier. Right. Which industries would you like to transform? So, given your intent, given your focus area, given the area in which you believe you can contribute, which industries are the ones where you can really focus on? Agriculture is the one which comes highest, very good, followed by healthcare, excellent, consumer products, retail, information technology, and automotive. Yeah, these are sectors which you believe you can contribute in. Fantastic. Now, when you say you will be able to contribute in these areas, what that also means is from tomorrow morning, you are going to start building skills, either because you are in education or if you are in a working company, you will continue to push your team and your management to do more and more innovation. Unless we do that, and I don't think many of you are directly connected with agriculture, but are willing to contribute, then you need to know what is it that we can do to improve the agricultural sector. Yeah, very good answers. I will store this and I will get back to the point that I will share based on this information you have given us. So many of you said agriculture. I had anticipated that. So in agriculture, and again, this is not the only solution, but one of the important things that needs to be done is have a pre-harvest platform and a post-harvest platform. Pre-harvest platform means seed companies, pesticide companies, fertilizer companies, equipment, that is tractors, harvester manufacturers, data analytics to have farm advisories based on soil testing, weather forecasts, and many other parameters. How can you use data analytics to tell the farmer that this is what is really needed for him? There are many other input players also involved. So a pre-harvest platform is needed for these companies to come on board, so that when a farmer posts his requirement saying, I have 10 acres of land and I'm going to grow rice of a certain category. The moment I put that on the platform, all the backend companies need to know what is it that this farmer requires, and can they come together and offer a package? Can they come together and optimize the costs for the farmer? Because now I know that this farmer is going to grow rice, or he's going to have sugarcane, or he's going to have mangoes, or he's going to have some specific vegetable that he's planning to grow. So the way in which this works is in a pre-harvest environment or pre-harvest platform. I connect all those companies who are making products and services for a pre-harvest environment and connect those to the farmers. Same logic, you swap it the other way around, that is the post-harvest platform. So market buyers, financial institutions, food processing companies, supply chain players, many other players who are there who are relevant in the post-harvest platform environment, they need to be connected to the farmers, because once the farmer says, I now have mangoes of this quality, this quantity, this location, I would want the rest of the things to flow seamlessly. If we are able to just have a pre-harvest and a post-harvest platform that is capable of improving the operational efficiency and improve the output and reduce the input costs of a farmer, there will be a tremendous difference that this will create. Again, this is not the only answer, but this is one of the answers, and you need to come up with, through innovation, more ideas beyond this. If you look at banking sector, some of you didn't mention that, some of you did. If you look at banking sector, in one branch, if I deposit cash or I withdraw cash or I do some open an account, it costs 48 rupees per transaction. It costs me 25 if I do the same thing over a call. It costs me 18 in an ATM. It costs me only 4 rupees if I do it online. India has roughly, if you look at ATM, it's about 18 rupees per ATM. This is slightly dated information about 2 years back. But for us to reach 10 trillion, the number of ATMs, the numbers, we moved from 52.9 million transactions in 2017 for finance transactions on a mobile. We moved up to 93. Yeah, these numbers look phenomenal. The whole world looks at us as if there is something fantastic going on here in India. And that is true. No doubts about that. But that still is just 7.6% of our Indian population. Imagine if we touch 30%. Imagine if BHIM gets used by 40% of Indians. If that happens, there will be a tremendous difference. But that's a parameter that will help us touch the 10 trillion. If you look at retail sector, I mentioned unorganized, we do $79 billion worth of business. Sorry, organized. Unorganized, we do $697 billion worth of. So organized is only 11%. Unorganized is at UK. 80% is organized. I'm not saying compare ourselves with what they are doing. Many people say mom and pop stores is the way India grows. That is complete bullshit. That has no data sanctity to that point. Unless you look at data, there is no chance of you making such a statement. For India to touch 10 trillion, at least 55% of our retail sector needs to be organized. So from 11%, we need to move to 55%. That is the target. Because if we go there, then from a government perspective, the tax inflows increase. But the good part is there is tremendous inefficiency in the food supply chain that can be reduced. What we see will be a massive improvement in various parameters of organized retail. The payments to the last vendors will increase. The payments to farmers will increase. The payments to the small and medium enterprise will increase. Their need for carrying inventory will reduce. Why? Because the moment you say organized retail, supply chain, inventory carrying costs, cash flows, all these get optimized. And you run a much better ship than you would in a mom and pop store. Because in mom and pop store, everything is thumb rule. Something is there in Diwali, something is not needed in Christmas. It has nothing to do with real data. Hopefully with the Facebook and Reliance thing, you will see some change in this direction. Good or bad, time will tell. But I believe that's a massive effort in this direction. If you look at manufacturing sector, our value-added manufacturing needs to significantly increase. Yeah? Value addition as a percentage of GDP needs to move from 12 to 32%. What does that mean? So the corporate sector needs to develop technologies and improve skills. We have to increase the ability to meet the demand of these empowered customers, as I mentioned. Yeah. So there are several parameters that need to improve. If you look at a very interesting parameter, I said India should compare itself with Korea because Samsung, Hyundai, there are many examples that are Korean which are doing really well and they're worth learning from. So in Korea, in 1981, yeah, 40% was the ratio of technology imports to business R&D. They reduced imports from 40% to 10% in 1990. Yeah? R&D investments from 0.52 billion moved up to 26 billion. Government started spending lesser on R&D and corporates started increasing their spend on R&D. That is how you improve your index and that is how you move ahead in the whole curve. If you look at telecom sector, we keep saying India has the highest number of mobile phones and internet in the whole world. We are still nowhere where we should be. We have to still move the needle significantly higher. Yeah. If you see the orange line, this is where we stand today. And the dotted point, 80% is where we have to reach. I think we will get there. I think we will get there faster than we had planned. The target is to expand internet penetration to more than 50% by 2024 and to about 80% by 2034. Because the moment internet reaches the last mile, a lot of the citizen services for which they have to really take pains changes. Your healthcare can reach the last mile through telemedicine. Your banking costs can significantly come down because it is 48 rupees versus 4 rupees online. Several parameters get impacted if internet reaches the last mile. I won't cover all industries, but just the last one to touch is infrastructure sector, and significantly within that highways. If you look at highways, what you see, the Indian average is at about 8. State GDP growth percentage per year, yeah, and on the other axis you have national and state highways kilometers per 1,000 square kilometer. Now, since Goa is a small state but has a lot, it is here in red. Red means it's a high performing state. Maharashtra has a lot of highways, it is here. Gujarat has a lot of highways, it is here. Kerala is here. But look at where J&K is. You and I both know why it is there. Look at where Orissa is. Should it move up? Yes. Look at where UP is going. UP is the catch-up state. They are moving at a rapid rate. They are putting more highways per day than any other state in the country. Andhra Pradesh, again, sorry, Andhra Pradesh is now broken down. But Uttarakhand, West Bengal, Punjab, Himachal Pradesh, Assam, Jharkhand, these guys need to improve their parameters significantly. George Bernard Shaw has said, you see things and you say why, but I dream things that never were, and I say why not? Unless we take this approach, we won't be able to grow. And some of the important KPIs that the corporate sector or the private sector needs to focus on, there are 5 areas that I believe and some of the analysts believe they need to focus on. The first area, empowered and informed customers. So what do we need to do there? Create a purposeful brand. You know, what's a purposeful brand? Purposeful brand is when, take the example of Hero Honda. Hero Honda makes the highest number of motorcycles in the world per day, per month, per year. You take any parameter, they are the world's highest. But what did Hero Honda do? When Hero Honda came into India, it was Hero collaboration with Honda. When Honda moved on, started their own, Hero became an independent, continued to invest in R&D, acquired a few companies around the world to ensure that their edge on innovation stays where it is. And today, they are providing motorcycles at a certain cost and at a certain fuel efficiency, which the most basic Indian can afford. So they connected Hero Honda's purpose with the aspiration of an Indian. When a village going Indian, when a guy who's just got a job in India, when he wants to buy a motorcycle, he buys Hero motorcycles, and he's a brand called Hero. Every brand, the reason why Tata is out there is because they invest a huge amount of their earnings back into society. That's why the brand is so high. It's a purposeful brand. They invest in hospitals, they invest in education, they invest in better living for various downtrodden and remote villages in the country. That's why it's a purposeful brand. Any company who wants to grow big needs to have a purposeful brand. I'm not telling you all details, I'm just picking one. Purposeful brand is one strategy. Second strategy is how to improve customer experience. When you go to a BSNL and get a telephone connection versus when you go to a Jio and get a connection, you know the difference. The difference is called difference in customer experience. And there is shift in quality. I think any company in India or Indian company which refuses to focus on quality will not exist. Again, I won't cover all the points, but just to give you one parameter in how to engage the empowered customer. Second, partner through unconventional channels. I mentioned a bit of this. How can two brands come together and do really well? I'll give you another international experience. Ray-Ban, we all wear, said, if I am going for a party on the beach and I want to have a certain Ray-Ban mobile, then if I place an order now, I will get a delivery maybe in a day or 2 days at least. What if I can go out there and tell the whole America, or in this case specifically it was Miami, can I go to everyone who comes to Miami and say that you will get a Ray-Ban goggle in 2 hours from the point at which you place an order? How did they make that real? They tied up with Uber. So when you place an order for a Ray-Ban on Amazon, the order gets diverted to Uber. Uber goes, picks the Ray-Ban up from a shop, comes and delivers at the hotel or the residence or the party. So it was it was Uber, Ray-Ban and Amazon who came together and delivered a new experience or a new way by which they are servicing their customers. This is called unconventional partnerships. It's very important to have unconventional partnerships to grow. Indian Post, for example, Indian Post, by the way, is probably the world's largest bank because the amount of money they disburse throughout the country and the number of branches that Indian Post has, I think no other bank in the world has, if I'm not wrong. Just correct me on that one. Check the details, but this is my, as far as I know, that is true. So if a bank and post connect, then that's an unconventional partnership, but it can make a massive difference to the outcomes. Third, build new human capital skills. That's in the third quadrant. Yeah. Why is that needed? In the last 20 years, India has grown. Many of us have grown our ranks. We joined as a GT, then we became a manager, then we became a senior manager, then we became a plant manager, then we became God knows what. So we kept rising. Yeah. So we've acquired skills in a certain way. 2020, the time has come for us to completely forget what we've learned and learn some completely new set of things. Don't get scared to do that. Because if you do that, that is when you're moving the needle on various parameters. That is when you are moving your organization and taking it to a whole new level. So every private sector company needs to invest in human capital skills, develop new skills, focus on innovation, risk management, new business models. All that requires a new set of thinking. It has nothing to do with age. It has only a lot to do with how you think and how you invest in the learning process. A growth and innovation mindset. Everybody on this call is here on this webinar because you like it. But trust me, innovation is expensive. More than expensive, innovation requires a company that has done business the same way for 40 years. You suddenly tell them tomorrow morning you have to go and change the whole thing by 180 degrees. They will say, have you gone crazy? Hire this guy. Why is he thinking so radically different? Compared to that, some of the big brands that I showed you, all those big brands have separate teams today that are thinking disruptively, that are having a startup within this big company. Some of you, I'm sure, are party to that. You would be a part of a startup within a large organization. As odd as that sounds, that is the way to handle new challenges that are coming up. Companies can also adopt a value growth mindset. A value growth mindset allows a company to think differently. It allows a company to grow in segments that it had never thought of embarking itself on. And lastly, again, as I said, I'm not covering all these parameters, just a few. Unlock vessel. Tata Power, again, a company that I know very well, a very well-run company. If you look at power provided by Tata Power versus power provided by a government entity, Tata Power is capable of reducing the theft of power by 70% in a year. The day the Power Ministry understood that Tata Power has the capability to reduce theft by 70%, they are able to improve the customer experience by giving him bills on the mobile app, allow him to pay in different ways. They have smart meters as an approach. They have the best team in the world to actually go in and help and do things better. The day they understood that, they said, okay, let us start handing over government-run power entities to Tata Power. Not just Tata Power, they bid for it, and then whoever is the best picks it up, because there are many other utilities companies in India. But if you give a government-run company to a private organization, many of you must be users of Passport. I mean, I don't know if any of you are old enough to know how the passport was given. How quickly I get a passport in less than 3 days. And I know at every stage where that passport is. That is the change. Now, when you hand over a private public sector organization to a private sector, there are a lot of headaches. People need to change, policies need to change. You have to motivate them to change. You have to have a good mix of new people and old people, and then get all of them to work properly. These are all difficult things. But unless you do that, you cannot unlock vested structures. That is, everything is in place, but nothing is working. If you want to change that situation, you have to put new energy into it and then make it work. Yeah, that's just an example of how things happen. And then, of course, the startup sector. Startup sector, there is a role of the government and there is a role of the private sector. Government is supposed to have the best policies. They need to support availability of cash. They need to have banks that give loans and credit to these startups. They need to give a lot of holidays to these startups. Private sector, on the other hand, they need to invest in these startups. They need to give a market to these startups. A new thing that we are seeing is if I'm in the business of making steel, I actually start funding a startup that is focusing on something new in the steel industry. And if they really do well, I actually buy them out. It's a great win-win. Yeah, I'm just giving you one of the strategies that they are using. There are many such strategies that are being adopted by bigger companies in the private sector to make sure that the small and medium enterprises and the startups flourish. Rabindranath Tagore has said, you can't cross the sea merely by standing and staring at the water. That is so true. It's a very simple statement, but many of us do that, don't we? We keep staring at a goal. We keep standing there and looking at where we want to reach, but we don't move. We don't cross that river. If we do, we succeed. We've seen that too. I'm sure some of you have. So for India to move from the 1.0, which is when we got independence, to 2.0, which was a bit of industrialization, to 3.0, which became computerization, to 4.0, where we are today and beyond, there is a journey. The first thing that government did long back was something called equilibrium effect. What that basically did was it said India needs 5,000 scooters only. It does not need 5,001 scooters. So it gave a license to Bajaj to only make 5,000 scooters. That is called the equilibrium effect, where you become God and you assume that this is what life is going to be, and you can only eat 3 puris, you cannot eat the 4th puri. So give a license to make only 3 puris. That is called equilibrium effect. That was stupid, but that was done because India was in the early stages. Now we see a butterfly effect. What is a butterfly effect? Because internet came in, banks started getting profitable because of the 4 rupee thing which I told you. Because internet came in, suddenly retail business went online. So I actually brought internet and a mobile phone so that people could speak, but the impact came in retail industry. So when there is something happening in one area, you suddenly see butterflies flowing out of a different area, something that you had absolutely not imagined or envisaged. That is called the butterfly effect. So you can't predict the butterfly effect. All you can do is keep a big enough vision to know where the butterflies are flying from and then take an action on it. The third effect was called the optimize effect. So what is optimize effect? Optimize effect says that if I want to reach from Bombay to Pune in the fastest way, make it a 6-lane highway. So everybody made a 6-lane highway. Suddenly the number of trucks going on that road itself increased, and now there is a traffic jam. That's the optimize effect. So trying to optimize means focusing on one specific area and making it the best. And then what happens to all the other 25 things that also impact this? You lose focus because that's not the approach of optimization. So optimize effect does not work anymore. You have to focus on a different effect. So to improve the economy, some governments started using the frisbee approach. What is the frisbee approach? As those of you who have a dog, you know that when you throw a frisbee, the dog runs and catches it. That's what the government did in some cases. Okay, let's throw a frisbee to the right, but when they threw it, actually went to the left. Because they also couldn't predict that the wind was going to be so much, my hand will twist so much, and we all like dogs have to run and catch that frisbee for the economy to grow. Cannot work that way. So what the current government is doing, and I really like some of the initiatives that they're doing, it is called the adaptive effect. The moment we saw COVID, we said lockdown. All those jokers who are saying that the economy will come to a standstill and India will die, tell them to shut up. Adaptive is you look at the situation and you adapt. You get better at it. You keep getting better at it. This happens when you have a broader approach, when you have a more cohesive approach, when you have an all-encompassing approach, when you have a data-centric approach. Unless you have a data-centric approach, you can never get adaptive. Yeah. So to summarize, for India 4.0, we have started the journey. We have still a long way to go, but we have started the journey. We are setting up smart cities. We have now a new customer segment. We earlier had rural people and urban people. Now we have a new category called urban. Urban is all the rural people living in urban India. But you have to cater to their requirements. You have to build those kind of housing schemes. You have to have those kind of retail outlets. You need to have banking with lesser, for the lesser cash people, or for those who cannot afford a zero deposit, zero account banking is needed. We are investing heavily in infrastructure, in roads, highways. Some jokers are saying that bullet train is a white elephant. That is stupid. Unless you have a bullet train, Mangalyaan, the outcome was zero. Stupid arguments. Unless you plan of going on the moon, how will you make new inventions that will be used in a car? So investing in infrastructure is very critical. Innovations are happening in that space. We need a better regulatory environment. GST was an example, and there are many new schemes that are coming up. We are signing up a lot of those free trade agreements with many countries around us, so that we can counter the big giant which now has a border with us. Higher global integration. I mean, COVID started in China. It came to India in less than a month's time, and it has gone all around the world. Yeah. Likewise, 3G became 4G. India is adopted 4G than any. And then lastly, there are new technologies coming up. So whether it is Beam, whether it is DG Locker, whether it is AI, ML, IoT that we are going to use, artificial intelligence, machine learning, IoT, a lot of these technologies is what my organization that I come from, SAP, focuses on in the area of innovation. But innovative and affordable technologies are extremely critical for us to move from the 3.0 where we are to a 4.0. That's what I wanted to share with all of you today. I think I probably would have taken a little more time than I should have, but it's a big topic. For us, it's very easy to sit around the corner, take a cup of coffee or tea, keep sipping and blame a lot of people. But what is important is, if you have come on this webinar with the sole intention of learning and doing something about it, around innovation, around coming up with something that makes India 10 trillion, otherwise we will have a disaster, trust me. If you are willing to sign up, at least I am there definitely to support you in whatever endeavors you have. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or any other forum, and I'll be there to discuss, debate, come up with new ideas, challenge new ideas, or even give you a word of advice if at all you need it, based on my limited exposure that I have. I'll hand over the reins back to the organizer for him or her to take any questions.
Marvelous. Thank you so much, Neeraj. I think what a data-rich, set of insights shared, and that too across industries. Thank you so much. In fact, if Zoom is listening into me, I wish they would, innovate with a applause effect as well. So great, wonderful. I see that we've got almost about some 20 questions lined up. I wanted to take your permission to try and extend the timeline. How much time can we, request you for?
I think you can go ahead. I have blocked half an hour more to be on the safe side, because generally when I get started, it's difficult to stop me.
Sure. Sure. Thank you so much. So I wanted to rewind a bit to your journey as a fresher. You studied mechanical engineering, and then you went on to apply that education in the various industries you worked in so far. Would you be able to share that, when did you realize you had an innovation mindset? Was I clear?
Yes.
Okay, great.
So after my engineering, actually, I landed up in Noida, and I landed up in that hot land of Noida, looking at a big flat land, and I was wondering how will we make cars here. And in about 3 years' time, we set up a plant. We rolled out the first Honda. I had taken a big team of people to Philippines to learn how to, so by my own hands, I realized that, so this is the reason I learned so many. I wasn't quite sure why I learned all those subjects. I came back to John Deere, exactly the same situation. I said, after my Honda experience and my John Deere experience, and I also was a part of many other organizations, when I started meeting these corporates, I realized that there was the same problem coming again and again in multiple areas. When I met automotive companies, whether it was in Delhi, Chennai,
Pune, Bombay, everybody had a same set of problems. But with SAP, I get an opportunity to see what a Mercedes-Benz has done, what a Volvo has done, what a Volkswagen has done, and how they go about handling innovation. When I got to see this difference between the two, that is when actually it dawned on me that looks like innovation is the next big thing. And by the way, for innovation to click in your mind, your brain needs to be wired in a certain way. I'm not saying everybody needs to understand innovation, but those who do need to necessarily make efforts in India to make that a reality. So when I got to see the advanced countries and where we stand today, I think that difference made me realize that innovation was the biggest gap that India is going through.
Great. And I guess during your career path, possibly there weren't courses focusing on innovation as such. I think this current generation possibly at least has a choice of courses focusing on innovation. What would you then recommend to the current set of students, working professionals? Because see, you were able to actually understand that yes, you are wired differently, leaning towards innovation, and you had a lot of practical on-the-job learnings as well. But the current set of students and working professionals, they have the option to actually get educated in a structured way. So do you think that that would really help rather than again just going the way that let's say the previous generations did, in absence of courses focusing on innovation?
I mean, all I can tell you is if I had known this animal called design thinking 10 years back, I would have done wonders. God damn it. I mean, there are so many tools in innovation that the Western world has mastered to the point where they are become super proficient in that. We have just been away from it. We just kept our heads in a different direction saying innovation, not our baby. We are very good at doing cut, copy, paste. That's our job. And we'll do that really well and we'll do that really cheap. Yeah. The time has come to learn the tools of innovation. Innovation is also a science. It has a methodology of its own. One individual who is asked to innovate and another individual who's trained to innovate can come up with a dramatic difference in outcomes. And that is the need of the hour. I'm very, very glad that an organization like MIT, where I graduated from in 1996, today is offering innovation as an important course, is going the last mile to use a situation like COVID also to promote it. I think that's phenomenal. And for all those who are on this call and want to focus on innovation, all I can say is that is the only way we can survive in 2034. And unless you start work today on learning how it is done, it will be quite a task for you to stay with your head above the water. I can tell you that.
Right. I guess that would be also serving the path towards India 5.0, India 6.0, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Neeraj, how beneficial were the learnings from entrepreneurship, when you got back to corporate leadership roles?
Yes. So when I became an entrepreneur, and I mean, I had a motorcycling startup and I continue to have it. I have some of the world's best automotive companies as my customers. I had a software startup, which I sold and exited from. And now I'm back in the corporate world. When you move from a corporate to startup and startup back to corporate, you suddenly realize the difference between the two worlds. Startup world is where sky is the limit and what you have in the pocket is the only thing you have. Whereas with corporate, you have the bank in your pocket, but you've aimed probably just one floor high. That is the fundamental difference between the corporate world and the startup world. And again, I'm not saying this is good and that is bad. Both have the reasons for being the way they are. But startup allows you to think on your feet. It allows you necessarily to be innovative in every aspect, whether it is how to open an office at the lowest cost, to having the employees happiest with the least of salaries, to handling your customers in the best possible way when you know you've got a fire in the back room. It makes you think innovatively in all angles. So that's an experience of its own. But I believe that experience gave me a lot more education. And I mean, SAP being SAP, it's a massive organization. It has its own courses and learning catalogs. And we also hire a lot of international experts. So my understanding of innovation is not just because I went out there and sweated it. I have also done enough courses internally to learn the tricks of the trade and the tools that are available. So, so an inborn expert is a myth. For you to be an expert, you have to learn, and you have to keep learning till the age of 80.
Okay. So, does SAP have a separate vertical focused on innovation, and how big is the team size?
Yes. So SAP focuses heavily on innovation, and that's one of the reasons it has been so successful. We have SAP innovation labs all around the world. Any customer who wants to innovate comes to the lab, does design thinking with us. We come up with 25 ideas, we shortlist 3, we deliver 2. And that's the reason when you suddenly use the power of aggregation and you say, okay, around 40 countries in the world, what are the top 5 problems that oil and gas has? You actually have the questions also, and you have the potential answers also. And that is what innovation is. It allows you to see through various challenges. So SAP has got global innovation centers, number 1. Number 2, SAP invests heavily, more than, I don't have the statistics at the back of the envelope, but SAP invests billions of dollars in innovating new products. So the whole portfolio of Leonardo, which is what I was heading about 3 years back, which had IoT, machine learning, blockchain, artificial intelligence, all of those new technologies built in and being used in the biggest and the largest corporations around the world. That whole Leonardo portfolio investment was done by SAP, and we continue to have that successfully being deployed across various organizations. Team size wise, we have a massive team in Bangalore, in Pune, as well as in Delhi. I'm speaking only India. I'm not talking of the labs we have in Waldorf, Germany, or the Palo Alto lab that we have, but we've got thousands and thousands of employees focusing on innovation, industry specific, technology specific. So blockchain in automotive, you will have an expert. Blockchain in banking, you have a different expert. IoT in pharma, you have a third expert. Just imagine the number of cross sections. And while many of you on this call are planning to learn something new, define the industry that you want to impact, the technology that you want to focus on, and then the toolkit that allows you to do that. So focus on all of that. SAP does that really well, and hence it is where it is. I only get a chance to learn a lot from such a massive organization.
Right, thank you. So how is SAP helping startups?
Right. So SAP, so there are 3 or 4 things that SAP does. The first thing is SAP Ventures, which is a venture fund. SAP Ventures has invested in several companies around the world, several startups around the world, which it continues to groom and take to new heights. Secondly, SAP has, we have a startup community of our own. So if any of you are joining a startup, have your own startup, you are most welcome to come to SAP Labs Bangalore and be a part of the startup journey. So you can enroll into an SAP startup program. SAP then works with you, understands what your product is, tells you what needs to be done to integrate it with SAP, tells you if there are SAP technologies that can be leveraged to make your startup better, and then takes your journey ahead. So that's the second thing that we do. And third is many of the executives in SAP like me, we mentor several startups, companies who are working in allied areas. And lastly, SAP Indus, that is SAP Customer User Group, which is a very, very powerful group in India. Almost all the chief digital officers and CIOs in India are a part of that. That organization also extends a helping hand to these startups. These CIOs come forward and give recommendations, listen to these startups, and we provide platforms that bring these customers and startups together on the same level so that they can learn from each other and grow.
Sure, thank you. Aniket would like to know, what is the future of urban farming in India? Any insights again, compared, considering that the earlier slides had a mention regarding the agro sector as well?
If you look at the agro sector, there are several things that currently we see coming up in a large way. First, that we see is this whole element of precision farming. Precision farming essentially is all about IoT, artificial intelligence, using a geopositioning satellite to give you the right pictures that tells you how to handle your farm in a better way. We've done this with many farms in India and in Asia Pacific. One of the recent one we did was There was a large palm plantation in Malaysia. We set up drones that looked at the whole plantation and identified which are the areas where there was insecticides required, which are the rest of the farm areas which don't require insecticides, where should you water, when you should not water, what is the right time to do the harvesting. So precision farming allows you to cut costs significantly and do a lot more automated stuff. If you look at urban farming, I think it's a good hobby to have, but farming as a sector, for it to improve, it requires us to marry the demand and supply a lot better. For those of you who know the American system really well, there the government is capable of telling a farmer what he should grow and how much he should grow, so that the rates of that commodity, that food commodity, is maintained in a certain price band. Because if it falls, I mean, many of you who've got farming families, you know that when last year sugarcane did well, this year everybody plants sugarcane. Somebody says soybean did well last year, everybody plants soybean, and then the rates come down. So for a farmer to survive, for India to have what it really needs, you need to have a data-based recommendation to every farmer on what he needs to grow and by what quantity, so that the exports and domestic consumption is matched and the price bracket is maintained for the farmer to actually make some money.
Sure. Thank you. Akshay Nalabri would like to know that, considering the challenges like data analytics, data security, digitization, and also slow FDI, do you think government initiatives like Digital India, Make in India have been sluggish in taking India towards, again, India 4.0?
Right. So first point is having focus in an area which requires focus. That is the first victory. I think there our government has done a brilliant job. They have decided to focus on areas which require focus. Number one. Number two, is that focus enough? And by enough, I mean both from government sector as well as from the private sector. Answer is no. I don't think we have as much focus on execution as we need as compared to policy making. So execution is where we are lacking. Yeah, everybody on this call will know that in India, we don't even have a standard for making good speed breakers. When that is the most dumbest element that you cannot go wrong on. But the height of a speed breaker in every city and sometimes in multiple roads in the same city are also different. Do you think it requires rocket science for us to fix this? True. All it requires is a mindset. When everybody is told to sit home during COVID period, we still have a bunch of intellectuals who step out and have fun. What it requires is for us to follow the process. India refuses to follow this word called process. That is our biggest failure. Policies will come and go, policies will get modified and get remodified. But unless we have a certain understanding of why a process needs to be followed, we will never succeed. And the reason why we don't follow process is because we see people getting successful by not following process. And that is the root cause, or one of the root causes, if not all, that needs to change. The day we understand that anybody who is following a process is actually winning, that day we will take 3 years to supersede any other world's best country that is there, if we understand that and we get to that level.
Thank you. Archana Mohan is a user researcher, and she feels that there needs to be a tremendous push to understand user needs for successful product development. How can this field be developed in India? Would you be able to share any insights on this?
Right. Very true. I'm sure many of you on WhatsApp would have seen that video of a young girl by the surname Kirloskar who came up with a device for hearing aid. I remember that. And she had some very interesting learnings. I mean, the whole process of understanding the requirement, and design thinking, by the way, is not the only, but a phenomenal way of understanding the real user requirements. I'll give you an example of how I encountered the benefits. We once came up with a mobile app for the factory worker. You know, the guys who work on the factory who are making engines. We made an application. So he has to click on a button to confirm that he's made an engine. He has to click on a button to confirm that he's checked the quality, so on and so forth. And we were wondering why this beautiful app that we've made is not being used by anybody on the shop floor. So we actually went to the shop floor. After we sat in the AC room and developed it, we then went to the shop floor. What we saw was that the people on the shop floor were wearing big gloves. And the moment you touch that glove on the screen, you have 3 buttons getting pressed and not one. Now, had I done design thinking, which means I would have had the actual guy who's going to use the app in the room to tell me what he requires, and then a methodology by which is well specified in design thinking as to how I capture these requirements, how do I interconnect the dots, how do I make sure that the ripple effect of this change that I'm bringing is handled well, and how do I make sure that the straight pass happens in the first shot itself. All these things are taken care in design thinking, and had I done that, you would have had a brilliant success. So to whoever has asked this question, the key to success is actually to not sit in an AC room and imagine things, but go out there. And India allows you to go in any direction. Every 200 kilometers, you have a new language, you have a new lifestyle, you have a new choice of food, you have a new choice of the roofs of every house after every 200 kilometers also change. I'm a motorcycle rider, and some of you on this call, I'm sure, are motorcycle riders. We all know every 200 kilometers, the food changes, water changes, roof changes. So there is enough opportunity for us to get new ideas, to learn new things, to identify new problems, and then come up with the new solutions. But success parameter is how well do you capture these user requirements so that you can come up with a solution.
Right. Thank you. Mihir Rao says, considering India's population, private sectors generally involve themselves in businesses that revolve around the upper strata of society. We need innovation involving the rest of the population as well. Why do private companies try to veer away from where opportunities are highest? And what are the risks and resistances involved?
Good point. So I'll give you an example. For those of you who have closely seen Geo, if you write, Reliance Industries used to mine oil to make money. And one fine day, Mukesh Ambani got up and said, we need to drill data to make money. And that day, he flipped the oil to GIO. Those of you who don't know, please look at the Geo logo and look at it from your mobile. It will spell OIL. Yeah. So they swapped. They did a absolute U-turn and changed their strategy. So what they did was they gave mobile phones free. For those of you who remember, they gave mobiles and the mobile connection free of cost. Now, SAP being SAP and I having the opportunity to speak to different people in different countries, they were wondering what the hell is going on. How can you actually give a mobile phone free and an internet connection free of charge to a consumer? How the hell is that possible? But because of doing that, they actually had 10 million, then 40 million, then 60 million. And we were a part of their journey because they use SAP technology tremendously in their operations. The whole billing engine that they use comes from SAP. So you can imagine every microsecond there is an SMS or a call or a byte that is being consumed, which gets rated and then clocked into the bill. And that happens every second or microsecond. And all that happens on a technology. But coming back, this approach that Reliance took was give it free and then make it big, was phenomenal. You look at the second example, the age-old example when I was in school in 1990s was the sachet example. The sachet example is your shampoo sachets. Instead of buying a bottle worth 120 rupees, if I sell a sachet for 5 rupees, the company became a multi-billion-dollar company just by changing its strategy from a bottle to a sachet. Yeah. So catering to volume and catering to value are two different approaches. Value and volume are different approaches. It requires a different mindset. It requires a different strategy. It requires a different business model. Nothing more complicated than that. Amul is so successful because of its cooperative chain. It picks milk from God knows how many corners of the country, and it has become Amul. So they go to the last mile. They cater to that last mile farmer or the milkman or the guy who has those cows, and they make it big. And they, in the process, also cater to those communities. So there are several examples we have of companies doing it big. One challenge that you will see in this area is when luxury starts reducing in profitability. That is when these companies will start focusing on volume and low margin. And that is when you will see a big change happen. Yeah. So I think there is no one answer to this, but I can assure you that the companies who look at volume, and India is a volume country. Yes, value is always there, but India predominantly is a volume country. And kitna deti hai, the Maruti question is a brilliant example of that. So Maruti became Maruti because it came up with an 800 and not a car as big as Mercedes-Benz. It did come up with a car like that and it flopped. But when Maruti started to move away from, not move away, but also focus on value from volume, they had to come up with Nexa, which is a different dealership brand entirely. So just like the same way, if you are focusing on value and want to move towards value, one of the points which I said in today's presentation, focus on unconventional partnerships. Don't build the whole asset on your own. If you have a big bazaar in every tier 3 city, use big bazaar to sell your candles. Don't set up your own stores to sell candles. Yeah. For that, you require a channel mindset. You require a partnership mindset. Again, one size fits all is the wrong way to look at it. If you have some genuine ideas, whoever has asked this question, do connect with me. We can discuss on different approaches of going about it. But what you're saying is true. India is a volume country. We need to have more companies focusing on that.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Neeraj. I can see 21 more questions, but I guess we're going to skip it for this time. I'm requesting all the participants whose questions have not been answered, please do reach out to me offline on LinkedIn. Look me up on Priya Dhawan, and I will get them answered by Neeraj offline. So a round of thanks to our participants for joining us today, and special thanks to our guest speaker, Mr. Neeraj Athalye, for his time and sharing his insights patiently last 1.5 hours. Thank you so much. I'd like to invite you all to our next webinar. Please save the date. It's Wednesday, 29th April, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Our guest speaker is Mr. Amitabh Ray. He's the Managing Director of Ericsson India Global Services. Please register soon for this webinar. Limited seats available. For those who tuned in late and are possibly joining us for the first time today, I would like to share that this curated series on innovations will feature a variety of industry thought leaders, speakers like Mr. Neeraj Athalye, who are a part of the MIT ID innovation ecosystem. MIT stands for the 4-decade-old Maharashtra Institute of Technology. ID stands for MIT's pioneering 15-year-old Institute of Design. MIT ID's one-year innovation program focuses on the 4 pillars of design, business, technology, and humanities. The key features and differentiators of this one-year course are immersions, project-based learning, and humanities. Last few seats left for the second cohort of this prestigious program that will fast-track your career path. So we encourage you to connect with us via our social channels. The links were shared above in the chat to know more about it. And do stay connected, stay safe, stay home, and please keep innovating every day. Thank you once again, Neeraj. Thank you so much.
Thank you.